Hi, I'm going to demonstrate how I want you to do your final project, but first I'm going to download some software that'll make creating the web pages a little bit easier. And I've done a Google search for Microsoft Expression Web, which is the software that I want to download. This is a HTML generator, so it's a program made by Microsoft that's free. And once installed on a computer with a Windows operating system, then you'll be able to go in, create web content using a designer window, so in an interface that's very similar to Microsoft Word. And as you design the web page, it will generate the corresponding HTML and CSS in the background. So I'll do a quick demonstration and show you what I'm talking about. So I haven't actually downloaded this before, so I've always installed from DVD, but I know that this is available. So let's see what I need to do here. It looks like what I need to do is hit the download button. Okay, so I will click download. Now this is part of a larger software suite that you can download for free, and included in that suite is a product called Expression Decoder, and if you download it, it'll provide you with software that will allow you to create video recordings of the screen the way I've done in these lectures. So I use another software called Camtasia, but I've known people that have used Expression Decoder and they like it just fine. So it's free, and if you ever have need to create video recordings like this and publish them on YouTube and so forth, that software is available for free. Okay, so I'm working from a wireless internet connection here, so the speed is not incredibly fast, but even at that you'll see that I'm 3/4 of the way done. So within about 19 seconds I should be completely done with this, and I will continue to sit here in silence until it's completely done. Okay, so I think I'm at a point where I can just simply run this, and there's a security signature here for Microsoft Corporation, so it looks legit. And it has installed and wants me to accept the licensing agreement, so if you've got hours of time to spare you can read that, or otherwise hit accept. And I'm going to opt not to join the Customer Experience Improvement Program, and I'm going to install the one and only program here, Expression Web 4. I'm not sure how long this is going to take to actually install. So if it looks like it's going to be a long time, I'll stop the video and then start it up again. But I'm thinking it probably won't take all that long to install. Okay, it's exciting. Okay, so I'm not going to view the release notes. I'm just going to finish, and then if I go to the Start menu and look under All Apps and look for Microsoft Expression Web 4. This is the software, and this is how it presents itself. Now, it wants to know whether I want this to be my default HTML editor, and I'm going to let it be my default editor and just say yes to that and uncheck the box so I'm not bothered by this message again. And then this has a lot more capability than what I'm prepared to demonstrate, so I'm going to close these side windows, which are things that we really don't need right now, and I'm going to set it up so that it just has one designer window. So there's a lot to this. If you have an interest in developing web content, want to go on and take an additional web programming course, or work through maybe some of the tutorials that are free on the internet through like W3C Schools, and there's a couple of others that are pretty good. I can't think of them right off the top of my head, but certainly this could be useful, and you could learn how to do a lot more than what I'm going to demonstrate today. But what I'm going to demonstrate today is that if we look in the bottom left corner, we have a designer window, and it's here that I can create a web page. So this is my page, okay, and I have a code window. All right, so in this code window I have a doc type tag. Now, it defaults to an older version of HTML, but it will enforce rules for the current version if I change the doc type tag to read just doc type HTML, and if I change the HTML tag to just read the opening HTML tag to just read HTML, and then at that point it should begin enforcing rules for HTML5, the current version. So the doc type tag is a tag that appears at the top of the web page. It's not actually HTML, but it appears at the top of the web page, and it tells the browser how to interpret the following HTML. So in this case, by having a doc type tag that has but one attribute, that attribute being HTML. So an attribute is just a component part of an instruction, and by having an attribute HTML, it then understands, the browser will understand that it's to interpret everything thereafter as HTML5, as opposed to some other version of HTML. And to clean this up just one last time, I don't need this meta content tag here, so I can get rid of that. It is a good idea to use this tag here, but it needs to be changed in such a way that I get rid of these characters space slash at the end of the tag. So again, if you were to learn HTML, maybe take the CPSC 1200 class or something, an online class that's offered every summer, you would learn that in the previous version of HTML, XHTML, these singular tags were supposed to end with space slash greater than, and in HTML5 that syntax has been revised to just have it end with a right angle brace. Okay, so I think I've got everything described correctly there. It looks like it. This is my page. That's the content, okay? And that content is, what appears in the body section in this paragraph within the body section. Now, that's a pretty minimal web page at this point, and not formatted too well either. So I'm going to do just a couple quick things to demonstrate a supplemental language that can be used with HTML called CSS, or Cascading Style Sheets. And there's actually 3 ways that cascading style sheets can be included in a web page. One is inline CSS, where the formatting rules, and again CSS is a formatting language, where the formatting rule is inserted directly into a tag. A second way of doing it is to embed the CSS rules in the head section of the web page, and then a third way is to import the CSS rule from an external file. So again, more than what I want to really go into in this class or on this final project, but I do want you to see just take a quick look at what CSS looks like, and I'll be generating 2 types of CSS, inline and internal CSS. Okay, so right now this web page has content. It says this is my page, but it doesn't really have any formatting. So I'm going to, through the designer window, apply some formatting, and I'm going to opt to bold the text, and I'm going to opt to center the text. So I'm using these tools on the toolbar, and again I told you that if you download this software you can create web pages much like you're creating content in Microsoft Word. I'll increase the size of this, so I'm going to change the size to a predetermined size, or I can put in a value that corresponds with a unit of measure called a point, which happens to be 1/72 of an inch. So if I make this 36 point or something like that, then it's going to make it a lot larger. Okay, 36 pt. And I could change the color. Okay, so I've got various colors that I could change it to as well. I'll just go ahead and, for the fun of it, change the color of it. I thought I changed the color of it. I'm not going to get too carried away with this. So font color, apply. Okay, I think I did change the color. I don't know how noticeable that's going to be. And now if I look at the code that's being generated, you'll see that in the head section, which I have highlighted, it has added the code has been generated, the CSS code has been generated to create a style section in the web page, and within that style section I have a CSS formatting rule. Okay, so I'm able to communicate all kinds of information, detailed information about how I want my web page formatted by creating CSS formatting rules. This is code that can be generated, in something like Expression Web. If you're a real crack web programmer, you can type these in yourself. What I tend to do is use a code generator like this and then go in and tweak the rules a little bit, go into the code window and make some fine-tuned changes. So if I were to go in here and make a fine-tuned change and change that from 36 to 48 and then go back to the designer window, I'd see that my text is even larger than it was previously. Okay, so it's kind of the best of both worlds if I use the code generator and then just go in and clean it up. The other thing I tend to do is to create meaningful names. So this is called the class selector. This part of it is called the class selector, and it begins with a dot and then a name. And this code generator uses kind of an okay generic type name called AutoStyle1. I can change that to make this something like I don't know, heading format. Notice I'm typing that in camel case notation, heading format. Now, when I go back to the designer window, it looks like I've lost all my formatting. Okay, so I'm sure you're impressed with my coding skills. The reason I've lost that is because there's really two parts to this. You have to create the rules and store them somewhere, and then secondly, you have to invoke the rules or call up the rules. And where I want that rule applied is in a paragraph tag, okay, and I want it called up so that it applies to this entire paragraph where the text "this is my page" is. But when the code was originally generated and the rule was named AutoStyle1, it made a call through a class attribute in the paragraph tag to AutoStyle1. Now what I need to do is to take this name, the name that I renamed it, do a Control-C, and replace AutoStyle1 with that name. And now if I go back to the designer page, everything's good again. Okay, so what have we seen? Well, we've seen that you can download this software for free. We've seen that you can generate your web pages, and generate the HTML for your web pages through a designer window. If you're interested in learning HTML and CSS, this becomes a very good way to learn, because you can try something in the designer window and then go look at the code that's been generated to see how it's working. So we've seen that in the web page itself, we can change the doc type tag so that it interprets HTML5, which would be the preferred thing to do, and that we can then go in and edit these formatting rules if we want to, and that we can call up the formatting rule as many times as we want to down here in the body section. Okay, so I'm going to go do just a couple more things. Notice the body tag here, right? It's just plain body tag. Come back to that in a moment. I'm going to come down here, hit the enter key a time or two. I'm going to let this default back to a certain size and to left alignment. I'm going to say this is more text. Okay, now sometimes this guy has a mind of its own, so I'm going to highlight the text, set it back to the default size and to the default alignment, which would be left alignment. And if I highlight this text in the designer window, here's a little trick to make this easy for you. If I highlight the text in the designer window and then click the code window, the text will appear highlighted in the code window, so I can very quickly jump right down and see where it is calling things up. It has attempted, when I messed up there a moment ago, when it messed up, I didn't really mess up. It decided it wanted to create some formatting that I didn't want. It created an AutoStyle 1 rule again. I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to then go to where it attempted to apply that, being right here in this paragraph tag, and get rid of it. And go back to the designer window. Okay, now it actually stuck another tag in here called a strong tag. I'm going to get rid of that too. Get rid of the strong tag here. Get rid of the corresponding closing strong tag here. And now if we look at things in the designer window, I've just got plain text. But what I want to do is demonstrate something real important here. And that is the fact that CSS allows you to reuse formatting rules. Okay, so if I have other places in my web page where I want to apply that rule, I can simply highlight the class attribute and its corresponding value, which happens to be the class selector name up here, and I can go to where I want to apply that rule a second time and execute a Control-V and paste that in. And then when I go back to the designer window, there we are, same size text and same style of text, the alignment's the same. Now this line right here still has a additional strong tag, okay, whereas I eliminated that from this line. But otherwise, this line that I most recently created and this first line that I created both invoke this same rule. So I write the rule once, and I can call it up as many times as I want to within this page. So if I put CSS in the head section, then I can apply that rule as many times as I want to within this page. Now if I have more than one page in my website, only this page can access that rule. Another way that CSS can be applied is inline CSS, and I'm going to do that right now. So again, notice the body tag right here. I'm going to get back to the designer window, and I'm going to go to I don't know where, maybe the format pull down menu, and choose background. Okay, and what this allows me to do is change the background color of hyperlinks and the background of the page. And so right now it doesn't have any background color associated with it, so I'm going to change that to silver and say OK to that. And when I come back, the background of the page is silver, and if I look at the code page and look specifically at the body, I see that it has put a CSS rule right inside that body tag. Now, since the body tag really sets the boundary for everything that's going to be displayed on the page, by applying that rule to the body tag, it will affect everything on the page. But here's an inline CSS rule applied to a tag. Here's internal CSS put in the head section of the page, and so it allows that rule to be used by any tag within the page. And then the third type of CSS, called external CSS, I'm not going to get into, but basically you can take CSS rules, put them in a text file, and then in the head section you can import that file into your web page, and that allows rules to be applied to any number of pages. So I could create a rule called heading format, store it in the external in an external file, and then if I have 100 pages in my website and I want all the headings to look like this heading does, then I could apply that rule not just to this page but to all the pages in my website. So we go from a very narrowly scoped rule when it's internal to a more broadly scoped rule when it's internal, and to a very broadly scoped rule when it's put in an external file. Okay, that is all I'm going to do on this video, and then I'm going to show you your final project in a second video. So this prepares you to do your final project, to use an editor if you opt to do that. The alternative is you can use Notepad and type all this in yourself.